Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a story that just, crashed right into the headlines.
Absolutely.
It's this very public, a really rapid breakdown of the alliance between former President Donald Trump and, of course, tech giant Elon Musk.
Yeah, it unfolded in just, a matter of days, culminating in what some sources were calling an all-out war on June 5th, just this past Thursday.
It was incredibly dramatic. Watching a political friendship go from, a White House key ceremony 1 minute to just open hostility almost overnight. A huge crash.
Exactly. And to really understand what happened and maybe why it was such a sudden crash and what it all means, we've gathered a whole stack of sources for this deep dive.
Right. We've got news articles, transcripts from reputable outlets, all really zeroing in on the events right around that key day, June 5th, 2025.
So our mission here is pretty clear. We want to trace this fascinating, sometimes really unlikely relationship right from its beginnings. Understand what sparked this latest conflict, just days after Musk left his government role. Then we'll meticulously detail the huge crash itself. What actually happened on June 5th.
And explore the immediate fallout for both Trump and Musk personally. What were the impacts right between them?
Yeah, and then zoom out a bit, look at the wider implications for U.S. politics, the economy, maybe even touch on some global ripples, perhaps?
Definitely, because this isn't just like political soap opera, right? Our sources make it clear this has real-world consequences we need to get a handle on quickly.
So we're aiming to get you up to speed fast on the essential facts, the key insights from all this reporting.
Okay, so before this huge crash, and certainly before 2024, the idea of Trump and Musk being close allies, it seemed, pretty improbable, didn't it?
Oh, completely. The sources paint a picture of a relationship that was definitely not always friendly.
Yeah.
Before 2024, Musk's public politics looked quite different. Sources mention him saying he voted Democrat, specifically Hillary Clinton in 2016, Joe Biden in 2020. He was also openly critical of Trump during his first term. Remember, he even resigned from those presidential advisory councils. That was over the U.S. pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord.
Yeah, I remember that. And there was direct bad blood reported even just a couple of years ago, in 2022. Trump called Musk a B artist publicly.
Right. And Musk fired back, didn't he?
Yeah.
Said Trump is too old, should hang up his hat and sail into the sunset. So, yeah, not exactly decades of mutual admiration here.
Not at all. So what changed? What was the turning point?
The sources seem to agree it was the assassination attempt targeting Trump. That was July 2024. After that happened, Musk publicly announced this really dramatic shift, said he would fully endorse Trump for president.
And things just took off from there, didn't they? Our sources talk about this post-election bromance.
Yeah, that's the term they use. Trump even singled him out in his victory speech, remember? A star is born, Elon.
Right, and then they were seen together everywhere. High-profile events like that SpaceX rocket launch in November 24, the Army-Navy game in December.
And Musk himself was fueling it online, on X. In February of this year, 2025, he posted that infamous line, something like, "I love it real Donald Trump as much as a straight man can love another man."
Wow. Yeah, that certainly underlined the apparent closeness.
No kidding.
And this alliance wasn't just social, it moved into the administration itself, right? Though maybe in a slightly unusual way.
Yeah, unconventional is a good word. Musk was announced as co-leading this thing called the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE they called it. He was supposed to do it with Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh, right, but Ramaswamy left before Trump even took office, didn't he?
Correct. So it was Musk leading this DOGE effort and had some pretty ambitious goals, according to the sources, maybe even radical ones.
Like what?
Well, reports mention proposals for a massive 75% cut to the federal workforce, a $2 trillion spending cut, eliminating entire agencies like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Huge changes. And sources mentioned there was confusion from the start about whether DOGE was really inside the government or sort of outside.
Exactly. That structure was never entirely clear. But Musk's role, it wasn't meant to be forever. He announced he was leaving in May 2025. Said it was just the end of his scheduled time.
And even then, the public tone was still positive, right? Trump praised him at a final Oval Office press conference, called him one of the greatest business leaders and innovators.
He did. And just days before this whole thing blew up, on May 30th, Trump presented him with a symbolic key to the White House.
Which makes what happened next just incredibly sudden.
Jarring. Totally. Just days after getting that key, leaving on apparently good terms, Musk starts publicly attacking the administration's big domestic policy bill.
Okay, let's talk about that. This big, beautiful bill, as Trump calls it. What do we know about it, and what was Musk's initial problem?
So the sources describe it as this really sweeping piece of domestic legislation. Proponents like Trump and Speaker Johnson, they frame it as, massive spending cuts, tax cuts aimed at boosting growth.
But critics, like Musk,
including Musk very loudly, argued its structure, its different provisions, would actually end up driving the federal deficit up significantly.
And Musk wasn't shy about saying so.
Not at all. He immediately went public, calling the bill a disgusting abomination. He specifically labeled it pork-filled and argued it would undo the very cost-cutting DOGE was supposedly trying to achieve.
Okay, but there's a wrinkle here, isn't there, about motivation?
Yes. Several sources reported that Musk had apparently tried personally to lobby the administration to keep electric vehicle tax incentives in that bill. Incentives that would directly benefit Tesla.
His company.
Right. But those credits were ultimately taken out. Now, Musk himself, he strongly denied his opposition had anything to do with those EV credits being cut. He insisted it was purely about the bill's fiscal impact.
Which brings us right to June 5th, 2025. Thursday. This is the day the sources say it all escalated from, criticism and sniping into all-out war.
Yeah, a spectacular public blowup. An epic breakup for the ages, is how some described it.
And it happened fast, playing out in real time, mostly online.
It did. It started with President Trump, actually. He was in the Oval Office, meeting with the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, interestingly enough, when reporters asked him about Musk.
And what did he say?
Sources captured his comments. He said he was very disappointed in Musk for criticizing the bill. He claimed Musk knew every aspect of it better than almost anybody and only developed this problem after leaving government and finding out the, quote, EV mandate was cut.
That phrase, EV mandate, sources noted there isn't actually a federal mandate like that, right? More like tax credits to encourage EV buying.
Correct. That distinction is important. And Trump publicly questioned if their great relationship could continue. One source quoted someone there saying the tone was almost like a spurned lover.
Wow. And Musk's reaction?
Immediate, unfiltered, on X. His first response to Trump's comments, just one word, whatever.
Just whatever.
Okay. Then he directly denied Trump's claims.
Yeah.
Said he was never shown the bill's details even once. Insisted again his opposition wasn't about EV credits.
But he didn't just leave it there, did he?
Oh no. He immediately escalated things. Big time. He claimed, quote, without me, Trump would have lost the election, Dems would control the House, and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate, and then added, such ingratitude.
That's quite a claim, asserting his own political power very directly.
Hugely direct. And then it got even more intense. Musk reposted a tweet that called for Trump to be impeached and replaced by Senator J.D. Vance. And Musk added his own comment, simply, yes.
Endorsing impeachment.
Okay.
And then came the Epstein claim.
Yes. This is highly controversial and, it's crucial to state, completely unsubstantiated. Sources reported Musk claimed Trump appears in government documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, and that was the real reason they have not been made public.
But sources stressed he offered zero evidence for this.
Absolutely none. The White House press secretary later called it an unfortunate episode. And sources familiar with the situation pointed out, names on flight logs don't prove wrongdoing, and Trump's past links to Epstein were already known. But Musk just threw it out there.
In the middle of all this, he also made an economic prediction.
Right. Said Trump's tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year. And then, almost bizarrely, he polled his followers asking if he should start a new political party.
Chaos. What was Trump doing while all this was flying on X?
He wasn't staying quiet. He jumped onto Truth Social, his platform, posted that Musk was wearing thin, and then he claimed he was actually the one who asked Musk to leave his government role. Said Musk just went crazy after the, again, non-existent federal EV mandate was removed.
So, contradicting Musk's timeline completely.
Totally. And then Trump hit back with a direct threat, a financial threat. He posted something like, the easiest way to save money, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. Adding, he was surprised Biden hadn't already done it.
Threatening Tesla and SpaceX's government business? How did Musk respond to that?
With pure defiance. Someone tweeted about potentially ending the International Space Station, and Musk commented, this just gets better and better, and then quoted Clint Eastwood, go ahead, make my day.
Wow. Daring him.
Pretty much. And he also flatly denied Trump's claim about being asked to leave, calling it an obvious lie.
So this incredible back and forth, all within hours on June 5th, this is the spectacular public blow-up everyone was talking about.
Exactly. Sources were comparing it to reality TV like Real Housewives or even a WWE match, just highlighting how personal and intense it got, way beyond normal political disagreements.
And this wasn't just words. This rapid exchange, these threats, they had immediate consequences, didn't they? Potential real-world impacts.
Absolutely. Sources reported that while this was all exploding online, allies of both Trump and Musk were apparently scrambling behind the scenes, trying to broker some kind of peace.
But the public posts made that impossible.
It seems so. The real-time nature of it just kept fueling the fire. Some apparently feared the damage was just too public, too severe, maybe beyond fixing already.
And then Musk made that alarming threat about SpaceX.
Yes, that was a serious moment. He announced SpaceX would start decommissioning the Dragon spacecraft immediately, and he directly cited Trump's threat about canceling government contracts as the reason.
Remind us why Dragon is so important.
It's absolutely critical for NASA and the International Space Station. Right now, it's the only U.S. vehicle that can bring significant amounts of cargo back from the ISS. It takes astronauts and supplies up. And it even recently helped out astronauts who were stranded because of issues with Boeing's Starliner. It's vital.
So threatening to decommission, it was huge.
Massive. Thankfully, sources noted later he did walk that specific threat back. But the fact he even went there, it really shows the potential business and operational stakes tangled up in this personal political fight.
Okay, so beyond the direct impact on Trump, Musk, and maybe SpaceX, this huge crash on June 5th, it sent ripples wider, didn't it? Across the U.S., maybe even globally.
For sure. Politically, you saw Republicans suddenly in a very, very awkward position.
How so?
Sources described them as nervous, trying to, quote, flee the Trump-Elon Musk blast radius. The advice going around was apparently things like stay out of fights or, never get between a dog and a fire hydrant.
Huh. That's vivid. Did we see specific reactions like that?
We did. Troy Nello, who's called Musk's attacks irresponsible, suggested he lost your mind. Rep. Chip Roy tried to downplay it, said he had no concern, but advised them both to count to 10. Senator John Kennedy gave us the dog and fire hydrant line, and Senator Mark Wayne Mullen just said flat out, I'm not standing in the middle of that fight.
So a real reluctance to pick sides between two figures who, both have influence with different parts of the Republican base.
Exactly. It put them in a tough spot. But some staunch Trump allies, they definitely leaned in hard against Musk.
Like who?
Steve Bannon, for example. He went public calling for investigations into Musk on just about everything: immigration status, security clearance, alleged drug use, his ties to China, even some bizarre claim about trying to get President Xi to the inauguration.
Wow. And Bannon recommended Trump actually pull the contracts.
Explicitly. Said Trump should follow through on the threat. And as we mentioned, the White House press secretary also pushed back, especially on that unsubstantiated Epstein claim from Musk.
Meanwhile, what about the Democrats? How did they react?
Sources say they were watching with, glee is the word used. Some described it as Christmas. They were hoping Musk's very public attacks might help kill that terrible bill, as they see it.
And seeing political advantage, too.
Yeah. Arguing the feud makes Trump look weak and feckless, like he can't even control his buddy. And Democratic lawmakers obviously used it as another chance to slam the big, beautiful bill itself, talking about potential cuts to healthcare, food stamps, things like that.
So the fight also put the bill itself right back in the spotlight. Musk versus Trump and Speaker Johnson on whether it cuts the deficit or increases it.
Precisely. Musk calling it ugly, Trump calling it big, beautiful. That debate got much louder because of this feud.
And this wasn't just political fallout. There were immediate business and economic shockwaves, too, especially for Musk's companies.
Yes, most dramatically for Tesla's stock. Sources reported that on Thursday, June 5th, the day this all exploded, the stock just plummeted, down 14%.
14% in one day, that's huge.
It wiped off something like $152 billion in market value, pushed Tesla back below that $1 trillion benchmark it had hit, a massive hit.
And then there's the lingering threat from Trump himself, the potential cancellation of billions in government subsidies and contracts for both SpaceX and Tesla,
which rely heavily on that government business, especially SpaceX with NASA. That threat is still sort of hanging there.
Plus, Musk added his own economic commentary to the mix.
Right, his prediction that Trump's tariff policies would cause a recession later this year, adding another layer to the economic uncertainty swirling around this.
And you mentioned a potential global angle, even if minor.
Well, just the fact that Trump's initial public criticism of Musk happened while he was literally meeting with the German chancellor. It put this very messy, very personal spat onto an international stage, however briefly. And of course, that threat about decommissioning Dragon, even though retracted, it highlighted how a fight between these two could potentially disrupt something like the International Space Station, which is a global collaboration.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you, the listener. Why does this specific, very public, very intense crash really matter?
Because, look, this wasn't just some private argument, right? Or a minor political disagreement. This was a high-speed collision between two incredibly powerful figures.
The sitting president of the United States and one of the world's richest, most influential tech billionaires.
Exactly. And their clash, it directly impacts huge policy debates. First and foremost, the fate of that big, beautiful bill, which could affect millions of Americans.
It also puts billions of dollars in government contracts on the line, affecting major industries, space, electric vehicles, companies like Tesla and SpaceX. That has real economic consequences.
And politically, it just shakes things up enormously. It forces politicians to navigate this new rift. It gives ammunition to opponents. Understanding how this unfolded, the sequence of events, the dynamics, it's really key to making sense of the news right now and maybe anticipating what might come next from this very public breakup.
It really was an astonishingly fast and dramatic turn from getting a key to the White House on May 30th to Musk advocating for Trump's impeachment just 6 days later on June 5th, all playing out in real time right there on social media for everyone to see.
It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, given the sheer intensity, the public nature of it all, the insults, the threats, the accusations.
Is a reconciliation between Donald Trump and Elon Musk even, remotely possible after something like this?
Or has the bromance truly irrevocably died? Is this just it? Or maybe just a really, really volatile chapter in a relationship that could somehow improbably mend itself?
And what's the lasting impact going to be on that whole complex relationship between tech billionaires and political power here in the U.S.?
Yeah, and maybe most immediately, what does this fight actually mean for the fate of the big, beautiful bill and for Elon Musk's own influence within the Republican Party going forward? Definitely a lot to keep an eye on.